Matt's here too with the story we promised you last week.
Oh yes, Lauren. Royal Mail. Turns out it can't always tell if your stamps are fake or legit to stick. Tonight, the man in charge of your letter tells us how he's going to do better.
First, it's Watchdog and Matt with a story you couldn't make up.
Yes, pity the poor postie, working their hardest to deliver letters to us all, whether they be from HMRC or your granny, while all we do is complain about how the service ain't what it used to be. But the latest turn of events does take some believing. We've been hearing about letters that have been delivered with a £5 penalty because the stamp was wrongly deemed to be counterfeit. Turns out, even the man in charge can't tell the difference, but luckily, we know someone who can. 2 years ago, Royal Mail brought in new stamps with QR codes for added security. But with many of you telling us about your problems with them, we've been taking a closer look. Loads of you reporting that you've been told your letters were sent with counterfeit stamps, despite the fact that you feel that you bought them from what felt like reputable sources. Christine from South London spent 20 years working in her local post office. So she thought nothing of it when she says she bought 8 stamps from the post office based inside her local convenience store back in December.
I sent one to my son and he sent us a message later in the month saying thank you, but unfortunately there was the £5 demand on the envelope.
Royal Mail charges a £5 fee to anyone who receives and accepts something with a fake stamp on.
Another friend of mine's granddaughter, I'd sent her a card and she had the same response. Both of them had to pay £5 because it was 2 of them. That made me quite indignant.
We've also heard from Yvonne, who lives in Staffordshire. In December, she bought 32 new barcoded stamps, also from the post office located inside her local convenience store. But after she used them to send out Christmas cards, Royal Mail identified 8 as counterfeit.
A lot of people won't pay the £5, so they won't get the cards, which makes me angry, really. It's a lot of money.
I mean, genuinely, you're getting to that point where you think, well, if you can't trust the post office, where are you going to go to buy legit stamps? So, what's going on? To find out if some of the stamps bought from legitimate post office sources were in fact fake, we enlisted the help of an expert. Chris Harmon is from the Royal Philatelic Society, and he and his team have got the skills and specialist equipment to spot fake stamps. This is from one of our viewers, Yvonne. We would love you to have a look at these stamps. Chris's team takes a closer look at 3 of Yvonne's stamps. 1 of the 8 identified as counterfeit, and then 2 more she's yet to use.
We are 100% certain on the stamps that you've got here, and all of them are forgeries.
How do you feel about the fact that you were able to buy these at your village shop?
I think it's really bad for anybody that's bought these. It's cost money to send, it's cost money to buy, the contents, the cards.
Is there anything that Yvonne could have done, Chris, to spot these and avoid buying them?
Unless you have your magnifying glass sitting in your handbag and can look in that amount of detail, then I don't think you'd have had a chance to spot them.
We also asked our expert to test this stamp, sent to us by another viewer hit with a penalty for being counterfeit. This time, it is in fact the real deal.
All the features are ones you expect in the genuine. The barcode, the design, and the way it reacts under ultraviolet light.
This process that the Royal Mail has in place, sometimes it's penalising the recipients for perfectly legitimate stamps.
Yes.
We put this to Royal Mail and it admitted one of the stamps our expert inspected was incorrectly flagged as counterfeit. Royal Mail has apologised and offered to rectify the customer's situation. It says it has a robust, multi-stage process in place when assessing whether barcoded stamps are genuine. The post office says it receives its stamps direct from Royal Mail's secure printers, but admits it could have sold fake stamps in Yvonne's case. It believes the postmaster received these stamps from another customer after swapping them with genuine stamps. It added it's given Yvonne £65 as a gesture of goodwill. The sub-postmaster of the post office that sold her the stamps has refunded her and apologised. Royal Mail, it feels like you may be presiding over another royal fail. genuine stamps that get marked as counterfeits. If you can't tell the difference between them, how are we supposed to? And yet it's us that's paying the price. Maybe it's time to turn the big magnifying glass on your processes. How about making that a priority? Well, it feels like there are plenty of questions to ask Royal Mail, so I did just that in an exclusive interview with its Director of External Affairs and Policy, David Gold. David, when the Royal Mail can't even spot the difference between a fake stamp and a legitimate one, what chance do we stand as customers?
I couldn't agree more. And that's why we want to make sure that people have got confidence when they go into a high street store and they buy their stamps, that they're buying the genuine article. The reality is, counterfeiters are now so good at what they do that even I work for Royal Mail, I can't tell the difference just by looking at them. Some of the things you can look out for are if a stamp has peculiar perforations around the edge, if there's a particular shine to it, if the colour's a bit off. But in reality, Matt, you shouldn't have to do that.
We're talking about your systems here. We're not talking about the customer looking out for themselves. We're talking about trust in the Royal Mail.
Absolutely.
And we're talking about the Royal Mail marking legitimate stamps as fakes and then the end recipient paying the price for that. I mean, there is no confidence once that's the case, because we don't know what to trust anymore.
But I would just say that, you know, in terms of confidence, people should understand that the overwhelming majority of stamps on sale are legitimate. In fact, since we introduced barcoded stamps, which means that every stamp is unique, we've cut the number of counterfeit stamps coming through the network by 90%. And what that means is that the number of stamps that we are spotting account for less than 0.1% of the total stamps going through the network. So the chances of you being in receipt of a counterfeit stamp are incredibly rare. And yes, we do occasionally make mistakes, and I apologise for that. But when we do have a mistake, we want to put it right as quickly as possible.
But you can't know the scale. You can't know how many times that's happening. You have to admit that.
In terms of the number of stamps that we've had to revisit and look at how many we've made a mistake on, the number is really tiny.
If we can't trust stamps that we buy directly from a post office, and we've demonstrated that you can't always now, how are we supposed to do anything about it as customers?
Actually, you can be sure when you go into a post office. They have a really secure network directly from Royal Mail, and it's treated much in the same way as banks treat money, in the way that we transport those stamps from our secure printer to the post office network. Any viewer who wants to go and buy stamps and be sure that they're buying legitimate stamps, always please buy them from a post office branch or from a high street retailer of repute.
I'll be honest, Matt, I'm still not totally confident about how I know I'm buying legitimate stamps.
Yeah, I can understand that. But as you heard there, David Gold insists that stamps bought from the post office or a recognised high street retailer should be the real deal, despite what we found. He also says if you challenge the penalty because you bought from one of these reputable sources, Royal Mail will investigate and refund. Now, customers who think they have been incorrectly charged can send the envelope with the barcoded stamp attached to Royal Mail, along with the location where the stamp was purchased. All the details on how to do this are on our website. Royal Mail adds it takes the production of counterfeit stamps seriously. It recognises the financial loss incurred by customers who believe they are purchasing legitimate stamps.
It really is putting people in a difficult position, though, isn't it? We're like, the recipient has to then contact the seller, then has to contact Royal Mail.
It's an awkward situation, isn't it? Because you have to say, hold on, this came with a charge attached, and that is awkward. But now is the time to spare your blushes, to put that awkwardness to one side and be honest with whoever sent you the letter, because clearly there is a problem here, and we are not going to know how big or small it is until people start challenging these charges. If that's you, the process that you're in right now, let us know how you get on. watchdog@bbc.co.uk, at BBC Watchdog on la media social, social media.